The story begins with ships firing at an unusual island. This island is not ordinary because it's inhabited by monsters. These creatures are terrifying, and the people on the island rely on hunters to eliminate them. The hunters are ready to take down these monsters, even when faced with giant red ants that appear before them. These ants are huge and scary, but the hunters prioritize fighting them to protect their commander. Unfortunately, the ants turn out to be incredibly powerful, and they start attacking the hunters mercilessly. The leader, who was their hope, lies injured on the ground. He's on the verge of losing consciousness. Just when things seem bleak, a person named Byung arrives and saves the commander from the ants' attack. Byung uses his healing magic to tend to the commander's wounds. However, the stubborn ants continue to attack, and this time, another hunter named Yoonseok uses his thunder power to knock the ants away. Despite their efforts, many ants are still around them. Yeonho, another hunter, uses his incredible strength to fight them off. The hunters protect Byung, who is trying to heal the injured. As they struggle against the ants, a giant white ant, considered the boss of the ants, appears. It's about to crush Yeonho, but he manages to hold its tentacles. Yoonseok takes advantage of the situation and delivers a massive shock to the ant. Yeonho removes its tentacles and creates an opening in its stomach by throwing them inside. Together, they defeat the giant ant. After catching their breath, they prepare to face more white giant ants that come out of their den. These ants are a formidable force, but the hunters are determined to fight back. Meanwhile, Mr. Choi, the commander, uses his fire magic to battle the ants in the city. He succeeds in eliminating many of them, but there's still a large army to contend with. He signals his army to follow his lead. The story then takes us back in time, explaining that many years ago, a portal opened in the world, leading to the appearance of monsters. Conventional weapons proved ineffective against these monsters. Only those with special weapons and fighting techniques, known as hunters, could stand a chance. These hunters are classified based on their abilities, with S rank being the highest and E rank the lowest. Fast forward 3 years, and we see Kim and Park meeting at a hunter spot. They're happy to see each other after a long time. Kim had thought Park had quit hunting, but Park's priority is to earn money, especially with his wife being pregnant. Jinwoo arrives, and it's evident that he's a high-rank hunter based on the respect he receives from those around him. However, Kim clarifies that Jinwoo is the weakest among them, and there's no hope of his promotion. Park teases him, and Kim urges Park to be discreet because they don't want to hurt Jinwoo's feelings. Unfortunately, Jinwoo overhears and acknowledges that he's the weakest among them. Jinwoo encounters Jui, a healer, and greets her warmly. However, she's not in a welcoming mood, likely due to his facial scars. She reprimands him for not taking a healer on their team more seriously. Jinwoo explains that their team, belonging to high-ranking hunters, doesn't need a healer. He knows his abilities and low rank, so he doesn't have any complaints. Despite this, Jui continues to blame him for not taking his life as a hunter seriously, and he apologizes for his mistake. Just then, a man named Mr. Song introduced himself as a team leader, and everyone welcomed him because his rank was higher than theirs. After that, they continued to move toward the portal. Park, who was passing by Jinwoo, advised him to stick with their group to stay alive. As he moved ahead, Jinwoo looked at his weapon, which was not powerful. Instead, it was just an ordinary weapon because he didn't have enough money to buy a high-ranked one. Ignoring his weapon's limitations, he stepped forward towards the portal as he knew that his never-ending war awaited him. On the other hand, the president informed his secretary about the government's demand to prevent further dungeon breaks. They were also demanding precious supplies from the dungeon. Their request wasn't unreasonable because these gems and stones could be used to create unique weapons. The president, known as Go, showed his secretary a crystal derived from a slain magic beast, highlighting its rarity. Meanwhile, Jinwoo looked at the gem in his hand and felt pleased, even though he hadn't killed a high-ranked monster. He had managed to defeat an E-rank monster. However, another monster suddenly attacked him, bringing him out of his imaginary world. Ready to fight back, Jinwoo realized that his dagger didn't support him and had broken. The demon attacked him and started cutting his stomach. Before the demon could succeed, another hunter approached and knocked it down. Later, this hunter moved forward to kill other monsters. Jui, scared as she watched Jinwoo's injuries, moved forward to heal him, confident that she could cure him. Meanwhile, Jinwoo shifted his attention to the hunters with remarkable power, feeling like nothing more than trash before them. Aside from this, President Go explained that with dungeon gems, they could create weapons capable of killing mighty creatures. Additionally, mana crystals were found in dungeons, and weapons could be created from them. However, compared to gem weapons, these mana crystal weapons were not as valuable. Still, they were in great demand, and the government wanted to research them to create lethal weapons. After they killed the last monster, they were satisfied, but not entirely because they still hadn't acquired the precious gems and stones they needed to make more money. Just then, one of the hunters discovered a tunnel, indicating the presence of another dungeon inside. This was a rare occurrence. Leader Song prepared to inform headquarters before taking further steps, but some hunters who could see money in front of their eyes preferred to enter the tunnel. Even Park decided to join them because his wife was pregnant, and they needed a significant amount of money. None of them had any idea about what they were going to face next, but they were confident about the challenges that lay ahead. Song, who wasn't content with their decision, suggested a vote. The vote resulted in a tie because some hunters wanted to enter while others wanted to leave. Everyone had cast their vote except Jinwoo. Song asked Jinwoo to participate, and before refusing, he thought about his mother, who was hospitalized and in need of money for her treatment. He couldn't forget about his sister, who was studying and required financial support. Therefore, he reluctantly gave his approval. They considered it a D-rank dungeon, so they didn't have any other option but to enter. In the company, Mr. Choi is hiring a capable and talented hunter. Instead, they sign a contract with them. On the other hand, a person on a bike snatches a girl's wallet. He feels no regrets and is happy because he plans to have a party. However, his plan is disrupted when he sees a gorgeous girl standing in front of him. He thinks she might be planning to die because she's standing in front of the bike. Just before the bike could hit her, she jumps away like a skilled hunter, winning the hearts of onlookers. As a result, some people in the crowd are injured. A gathering forms around her, and they quickly realize who she is, an S-rank hunter. People look at her as if she's a celebrity. Before the situation worsens, she leaps onto a building and disappears, not giving anyone a chance to ask questions. The people left behind are pleased to have met an S-rank hunter. Meanwhile, it's been almost 40 minutes since they started walking, and they're still looking for their boss. When the portal closes, they'll only have 20 minutes to eliminate the target. While walking, Ju-Jui needs to talk to Jinwoo. Jinwoo notices her concern and apologizes, even though he doesn't fully understand his mistake. Ju-Jui becomes furious and starts insulting him because she feels he has no concern for his life. He recently survived a dangerous situation but seems eager to jump into danger again, despite the scars and wounds all over his body. He refuses to give up. This infuriates Ju-Jui, but Jinwoo can only offer apologies. However, he can't share his sister's and mother's expenses with anyone. Listening to his apologetic words, Ju-Jui calms down a bit. She decides not to forgive him easily and asks him out to dinner. After escaping from that place, Jinwoo is ready for dinner and doesn't fully understand why Ju-Jui is interested in him. After walking for a long while, they finally find a bronze door. But as they look at the elegance of the door, they are stunned because this has never happened before. Some of them prefer to leave without going inside, fearing the unknown. However, those driven by their desire for money can't accept leaving empty-handed. So, despite their fears, they have no choice but to enter. Back in the city, a group of hunters gather for an orientation session. They watch a video of President Go, who explains that the portal they're about to enter has existed for over a decade, and there are still many mysteries within the dungeon. Hunting is a dangerous profession, and even experienced hunters can't afford to let their guard down during a raid mission. They must be cautious. However, in the dungeon, the group of hunters seems to have forgotten these words of caution entirely. They enter a mysterious and dangerous room that has never been explored before. They act as if they're on a casual field trip, showing no sense of the danger that lurks around them. The room contains ancient statues, some of which are holding strange musical instruments. Jinwoo stares at one particularly large statue, feeling uneasy about the eerie silence in the room. Everyone wonders where the boss monster is, and Song notices a magic circle on the ground. His attention is then drawn to a tablet with ancient writings and commandments related to worshipping some kind of god. However, Jinwoo is more concerned about something else. He believes he saw the eyes of the giant statue move, seemingly looking right at them. Jinwoo dismisses this as imagination, but their shock deepens when the door to the room suddenly closes. Panic ensues among the hunters. One woman suggests they might be trapped, but another man shoves her aside, regretting their decision to underestimate the dungeon. He tries to leave, no longer caring about the treasures they hope to find. However, in an instant, half of his body is sliced off by one of the statues. Horror and disbelief grip the remaining hunters as they realize they are facing a formidable enemy. Jinwoo is the most shocked among them, considering that the deceased hunter was of a higher rank than him. He knows he stands no chance against the statues, and the situation makes no sense to him. This dungeon is only supposed to be a D rank, but the statues are anything but ordinary. As chaos unfolds, Jinwoo has a terrifying realization. If one statue can move, then perhaps the others can too. He locks eyes with the giant statue, which seems to return his gaze. His mind races as he contemplates the dire situation they are in. reflecting on Jin Woo's history. It becomes clear that he has faced numerous life and death situations before. From being separated from his team in his first mission to suffering injuries and hospitalization in encounters with magic beasts, every dungeon expedition is a perilous endeavor for him. Unlike other hunters who acquire gems and invest in better weapons, Jin Woo has only a modest knife and tattered clothes. He endures constant ridicule, relying on keen observation to find ways to survive. Back in the present, Jin Woo's instincts warn him of the impending danger posed by the giant statue. However, his warning comes too late, as the giant statue releases a powerful beam from its eyes, causing massive destruction. Panic and disbelief grip the team as they realize the direness of their situation. Ju trembles with fear, and Jin Woo is left shocked, knowing that they are trapped with no way out and their lives are in grave danger. After witnessing the powerful attack, the group debates whether to flee, fearing further attacks. Song advises everyone to stay still to avoid provoking another assault. He commends Jin Woo, acknowledging that they all would have been in grave danger if not for Jin Woo's alertness. Jin Woo, noticing Song's missing arm, attends to him. Song downplays his injury, requesting Jin Woo's help to stop the bleeding. He had hoped to ask Ju, a B-rank healer, but she struggles under pressure, which limits her to easier raids. Song notes that while he has experienced B-rank dungeons, the creature they encountered could be O or even S-rank. Song then recites the Kartanen Temple's commandments, which include revering God, praising him, and proving faith. Those who fail to obey these laws will not survive in this place. Jin Woo wonders if the massive statue they saw represents the god mentioned in the commandments. The narrative then shifts to explain that 10 years ago, gates connecting their world to an alternate dimension appeared, leading to supernatural occurrences worldwide. These events gave rise to individuals with special powers, known as hunters, responsible for battling the creatures inside dungeons. A hunter's power, once awakened, remains constant. However, some gates hide monsters that evoke a fear beyond the ordinary. We then see that Jin Woo's sister, Jinna, is at school when one of her friends arrives late. The friend curiously asks if Jinna's brother is a hunter. Jinna confirms, mentioning he's an E-rank and often gets injured, recently coming home covered in bandages. She inquires why her friend is interested, and the friend nonchalantly suggests she could do better than Jinna's brother. Meanwhile, back in the dungeon, Sung acknowledges the overwhelming power of the creature they face. He suggests they regroup and find an escape. Another person trapped in the dungeon, not wanting to die after just securing a contract with a major guild, believes he can escape by running at full speed, confident in his swiftness. However, as he attempts to flee, the statue instantly incinerates him. Song realizes they are at the mercy of this powerful entity, and Jin Woo ponders why it hasn't killed them all yet. Recalling the commandments, Jin Woo asks Song to repeat the first one. Song replies that it's to revere God. Jin Woo theorizes that the dungeon operates under its own set of rules. He tries standing up, causing the statue's eyes to glow ominously. Quickly sitting back down, the statue returns to its normal state. Jin Woo then instructs everyone to bow their heads to the statue. The group is confused, not fully understanding his reasoning. Song asks Jin Woo if he's figured something out. Jin Woo explains that the statue won't attack as long as they keep their heads bowed in reverence, following the commandment to revere God. Everyone imitates Jin Woo, bowing their heads. The statue's sinister expression seems to soften, and Park, noticing the statue isn't reacting, bravely stands up. To their relief, the statue remains passive, and the rest of the group also stands. They question if the danger has passed, but Jin Woo reminds them there are still 2 more commandments to consider. Suddenly, the statue comes to life and starts moving. Song asks Jin Woo for a plan, and Jin Woo admits he doesn't have one but emphasizes the importance of adhering to the commandment. The second commandment, to praise God, becomes their focus, but they are unsure how to do it. A hunter, knowledgeable in ethnology, volunteers to try praising the statue using traditional extollments. Unfortunately, his prayers don't affect the statue, which brutally crushes him. The horrifying sight causes the others to scatter in fear. Park, desperate to survive for his family's sake, approaches another statue, hoping for safety. Tragically, this statue swiftly cuts him in half, leaving the group in shock and dismay. While running alongside Juhi, Jin Woo ponders how they can fulfill the commandment to praise the statue. He knows he can't leave Juhi behind and desperately searches for a clue. Meanwhile, the statues continue their deadly rampage, claiming more hunters' lives. Observing closely, Jin Woo notices a key difference. Some statues wield weapons, while others hold musical instruments. He directs everyone towards the statues holding instruments. Song approaches one, and to their relief, the instrument begins to play. The other hunters replicate this, but the instrument of Jin Woo's chosen statue remains silent. Jin Woo quickly deduces the problem. It's inactive because 2 people are standing in front of it. He decides to leave Juhi there and move to another instrument statue, even as the giant statue chases him. The colossal statue attempts to crush Jinwoo, but he agilely dodges the attack. However, he inadvertently lands near a weapon-bearing statue and narrowly escapes its assault, sustaining some injuries. Despite his wounds, Jinwoo crawls towards a different instrument statue. As the giant statue lunges for another attack, Jinwoo evades it and reaches the instrument statue, triggering its music. The giant statue halts its aggression and returns to its throne. Jinwoo understands that playing the instruments is the way to praise the entity, as required by the commandment. Juhi rushes over to Jinwoo, finding that one of his legs is missing. She attempts to heal him, but Jinwoo cautions her against overexerting herself. Ignoring his warnings, Juhi pushes her powers to the limit, causing her to bleed and eventually forcing her to stop. Kim, overwhelmed by the dire situation, remarks that it feels like a nightmare. He comments regretfully on Song's lost arm, attributing it to Song's rash decision as their leader. He suggests it's a result of karma. The others quickly remind Kim that he was the one pushing to enter the dungeon, but Kim argues that they all agreed on it together. Song, taking responsibility, admits the final decision was his. Jinwoo, sensing the urgency, refocuses the group, reminding them there's still one commandment left. Suddenly, an altar materializes in the room's center. The group is puzzled, but Jinwoo explains it's an altar for offerings to gods, used for treasure and sacrifices. He connects this to the third commandment, the need to prove their faith. Kim suggests a sacrifice is necessary, and, pointing his sword at Song, implies Song should take responsibility for his actions. Song, accepting his fate, approaches the altar, ready to sacrifice himself. Jinwoo internally debates this, believing the situation isn't solely Song's fault since they had voted on their action. As Song nears the altar, a flame ignites beside it, causing confusion among the group. Song looks to Jinwoo, unsure if further action is needed. Jinwoo, deep in thought, requests 2 hunters to escort him to the altar for a closer examination. The group is concerned about potential attacks, but Jinwoo reassures them. Approaching the altar, 3 more flames appear. Song asks Jinwoo if he has figured anything out, but Jinwoo admits he hasn't. He questions whether waiting would lead to rescue, but Song pessimistically notes that the gate has been open for a week, and the statues might reactivate before help arrives. Jinwoo reflects on the dungeon dynamics, realizing that a gate fully opens in 7 days, leading to a dungeon break. This event allows monsters to cross into their world. The main goal of raids is to defeat the dungeon boss and close the gate in time. Failure to do so in their current predicament would mean the monstrous entity could invade their world. In the hospital, Jia is visiting her mother, who is unconscious in her bed. Jia chats away happily to her unresponsive mother, sharing stories about her day. Meanwhile, in a mysterious dungeon, Jinwoo gathers everyone around an altar. He suspects that for each person present, a flame will light up, possibly leading to something happening. As everyone gathers close, individual flames light up, and then blue flames appear, signaling the opening of the room's door. The once still statues begin to ominously move towards the altar, causing confusion among the group. Jinwoo, having observed the pattern, instructs everyone to keep their eyes fixed on the statues, explaining that they only move when not being watched. The group follows Jinwoo's instruction, halting the statues. However, fear overcomes one of the hunters, who runs out of the gate. This causes one of the flames to extinguish, slightly closing the gate. This development leads the group to question their situation. Jinwoo notices the blue flames gradually fading over time. He deduces that the dungeon might be a trap, using danger to create false hope and test their faith. When another hunter leaves, Jinwoo warns the remaining group about potential blind spots and reassures them that as long as they keep watching the statues, they'll be safe. He believes that the blue flames act as a timer, and their extinguishing will signal their escape. Kim, acknowledging Jinwoo's crucial role in their survival, feels torn between staying and returning to his family. He decides to leave, hopeful for a reunion with his loved ones. Jinwoo, despite the dwindling numbers, remains determined to find a way out. Song then urges Jinwoo and Juhi to escape, saying the door will remain open as long as someone stays behind. As Juhi attempts to help Jinwoo leave, she collapses, likely due to overexertion from her earlier healing attempts. Jinwoo, now faced with a difficult decision, contemplates their next move in the perilous dungeon. In the dire situation, Jinwoo urges Song to escape with Juhi, insisting he's the only one who can carry her out safely. Despite Juhi's reluctance, Jinwoo reassures her by promising a meal out and gives her an essence stone to buy dinner, playfully saying he'll ask for the change later. Juhi protests, but Song quickly knocks her out, facilitating their escape. Left alone, Jinwoo reflects on his fate, regretting not having better insurance and vowing to take down at least one enemy with him. However, his efforts to fight back are futile against the overpowering statues, which soon dismember and beat him mercilessly. Amidst the pain, Jinwoo thinks about his desire to be stronger and his limited success. He recalls Kim's words and understands Kim's need to return to his family, acknowledging that often the most selfish are the ones who benefit. Jinwoo, too, realizes he doesn't want to die. In the critical moment, as the statues prepare for a final blow, time runs out, and they halt. Suddenly, Jinwoo sees a notification about a quest, offering him the chance to become a player. The message warns of imminent death if he declines. With only a fraction of a second to decide, Jinwoo chooses to accept, embracing this unexpected opportunity for survival. We then see that the screen says that he have become a player, and son Jinwoo wakes up in a hospital, surprised to see his previously severed limbs perfectly attached, with no signs of the fatal chest wound he remembers. Confused, he wonders if it was all a dream. But then two members of the Hunter Association's surveillance team, Woo Jinchul and Kang Taeshik, visit him. They inform Jinwoo that he has been unconscious for 3 days. He's relieved to hear that his fellow hunters, Juhee and Song Cheol, survived the incident, though Cheol lost an arm and might retire, and Juhee is undergoing psychiatric treatment, uncertain if she'll continue hunting. Jinchul reveals that only 6 survived the double dungeon incident, a rarity with such tragic outcomes. By the time the White Tiger Guild investigated, based on survivors' alerts, all they found was Jinwoo alone, with no evidence of the described temple and statues. This baffles Jinwoo, but Jinchul confirms the survivors' accounts align, avoiding suspicion on them. Jinchul then speculates Jinwoo might have experienced a second awakening, a rare phenomenon allowing hunters to surpass their initial power, possibly reaching SSS-Rank. To test this, Jinwoo is asked to use a manometer. If his survival against supposedly deadly magical beasts was true, it might indicate a significant power, implying an SSS-Rank's involvement. However, Jinwoo's mana score is only 10, far below expectations, deflating his hopes of a second awakening. Apologizing for their mistake, Jinchul and Taeshik leave, puzzled over how Jinwoo survived, labeling him nearly as weak as a civilian. Son Jinwoo feels disappointed that the Hunter Association representatives didn't inquire about the mysterious pop-up window only he seems to see, questioning if he's the only one who can perceive it. Realizing it doesn't respond to touch, he recalls encountering something similar before. His sister, Jinna, visits, scolding him for his recklessness and threatening to quit school to work if such an incident recurs. Jinwoo, feeling guilty for nearly leaving his sister behind, tests if Jinna can see the pop-up by asking her about notification reading in games. Following her clueless response, Jinwoo commands Aloud to open the message box, which surprisingly works, revealing messages addressing him as a player. As Jinna leaves with her friend Seong, Jinwoo explores more pop-ups, learning the system aims to aid a player's development, warning of penalties for non-compliance. He discovers a daily strength training quest with physical exercise, puzzled by the unrealistic expectations while hospitalized. Meanwhile, Jinchul reports to Chairman Gunhee that Jinwoo hasn't undergone a second awakening. Relieved yet puzzled by the incident's oddities and lack of a dungeon break, Gunhee instructs marking this as a special case for further investigation. Jeonggan asks Hyein if she could join the upcoming B-rank raid as a guide. He tells her the raid is both a test and hands-on training for newcomers. Hyein isn't sure she's cut out to be a guide. Jeonggan assures her that simply by fighting as she always does, she'll set a great example for everyone. He reminds her that their Hunters Guild is among the top 5 in the city, yet it doesn't stand out on a global scale. While they can't boost their ranks individually, they can still improve as a team to be prepared for future challenges. Suddenly, a gate appears in the middle of a road, causing trouble for the city's residents, who hope the hunters will deal with it soon. Meanwhile, in the hospital, Jinwoo's time for his daily quest expires, triggering an earthquake in his room. He falls from his bed to find himself in a desert, realizing he's been transported as a penalty for not completing his quest. He must survive here for 4 hours. Back in the hospital, a nurse checks on Jinwoo, only to find his room empty. As Jinwoo flees from a giant centipede, he wonders how many there are. With 2 hours still to go, nurses search the hospital for him. He narrowly escapes being eaten by one of the centipedes when his time runs out, and he's transported back to the hospital, where he collapses from exhaustion. The nurses eventually find him back in his room. After a few days, Jinwoo tells Jinna he's getting better and will be discharged soon. Meanwhile, Juhee receives an invite to a D-rank dungeon raid but declines. The caller mentions Jinwoo's awakening, which delights Juhee. She visits him with flowers, sees him running in the garden, and learns from the nurses that he's been exercising to get back in shape since waking up. Deciding not to disturb him, Juhee leaves. Jinwoo then takes a moment to rest, reflecting on the 4 days since he regained consciousness and his realization that the quest windows he sees are real. He understands now that completing daily quests rewards him with full recovery, ability points to enhance his strength, and access to a skill inventory. This new reality amuses him, even if it makes others think he's odd for laughing by himself. Jinwoo reveals the last reward from his daily quest is a mystery box. When he opens it, he finds a key inside. Up until now, he's only received trivial items like bandages and pens, but this time, he discovers the key can teleport him to a special dungeon from Exit 3 of the Hapjeong subway station. Curious, Jinwoo wonders about this instance dungeon and guesses it's an opportunity for him to get stronger. Meanwhile, a news report talks about the gates that have appeared in various cities, warning of possible traffic jams in those areas. The story then shifts to Jinwoo visiting his ill mother, recalling that her illness began 4 years ago when she suddenly fell into a coma. The doctors diagnosed her with eternal sleep disease, a condition that emerged alongside the gates, affecting one in tens of thousands. They suggested it might be linked to mana exposure, with life support being the only aid modern medicine could offer. This situation led Jinwoo to take up work at a construction site until he awakened as a hunter. Excited by his new abilities, he shared with his sister their newfound hope for affording their mother's medical expenses. Despite his sister's concerns about the dangers, Jinwoo assured her he could handle it. However, it soon became clear that Jinwoo struggled against monsters, often holding back his team. After completing another round of daily quests, he decides to invest his ability points into increasing his strength yet again. Jinwoo heads to Hapjeong Station, believing he can escape if the situation gets too risky. Upon using a special key, a gate to another dimension appears, and he steps through it, the entrance ceiling shut behind him. Inside, he realizes he's in an instance dungeon, distinct from the normal ones he's familiar with, where the only escape options are defeating the dungeon boss or using a teleportation stone. Worried about his ability to confront a dungeon boss given his past difficulties with even low-level monsters, Jinwoo has no choice but to proceed. Inside the dungeon, he encounters 3 goblins. Initially, he can only dodge their attacks, but frustration fuels his determination, allowing him to defeat them one by one, boosting his confidence. However, his triumph is short-lived as a steel fang lichen attacks, easily breaking his blade. The liken's strength overwhelms Jinwoo, leaving him paralyzed with fear and unable to move, a stark reminder of his vulnerabilities without a healer by his side. As the lichen launches another attack, Jinwoo faces the harsh reality of his situation. As the wolf-like creature, the lichen, charges at Jinwoo, he quickly uses his newfound agility to dodge its attacks. He notices that his body feels lighter than usual, and despite the fear, he decides not to give up this second chance at life. In a daring move, Jinwoo rushes towards the lichen, landing a powerful punch that sends it flying. Surprisingly, steam rises from the impact, making Jinwoo realize that he has gained strength. However, he acknowledges that the lichen is still much stronger than him. When the lichen charges again, Jinwoo attempts to counter with punches, but they prove ineffective. Forced to dodge, he understands that defeating the lichen will require some help. Lacking a party, Jinwoo decides to use his resources wisely. He runs, but the lichen claws at his shin, prompting him to create distance. Faced with the realization that he can't keep dodging forever, he wishes for a magical weapon. Recalling his secret inventory, he retrieves a magic sword. As the lichen lunges once more, Jinwoo skillfully slices it in two, receiving a level-up notification. Confused about how the expensive sword ended up in his inventory, Jinwoo chooses not to dwell on it. His wounds heal, and despite the appearance of 2 more steel fang lichens, Jinwoo remains confident with his newfound weapon. Attempting to lift the sword from the ground, Jinwoo realizes it won't budge. Panic sets in as the lichens approach, and he desperately pleads for the sword's cooperation. On the final attempt, the sword dislodges just in time. As the lichens close in, Jinwoo swings the sword, defeating one and skillfully kicking the other to prevent damage to his valuable weapon. Unfazed by the appearance of another lichen, Jinwoo confidently faces it, knowing that these creatures are nothing compared to the challenges he faced in the secret room. The magic sword, now a powerful ally, gives him a newfound sense of assurance as he prepares for whatever challenges lie ahead. Jinwoo faces the lichen, but it quickly turns and runs away. Deciding to take a break, he leans against the wall and realizes he's now at level 2 after engaging in actual combat, unlike the daily quests that never caused him to level up. His wounds heal, and he notices that all his stats have increased by 1 point, making a total of 5 points, which is more than what he gained from daily quests. Curious about how much stronger he can get with each stat increase, he speculates that the higher his basic ability in a stat, the more points he can earn. Despite the newfound strength, he remains grounded, not wanting to get carried away by defeating only 5 small monsters. Eager to collect rewards, Jinwoo checks for magic gems on the lichens, but instead, he receives a wolf fang as an item. Wondering about the in-game economy, he attempts to buy something from the shop screen, only to find out that new players cannot make purchases. Opting to sell the fang, he receives 20 gold coins, though he ponders on their real-world value in an E-rank dungeon. Facing the challenge of finding the dungeon boss or the teleportation stone, Jinwoo acknowledges his uncertainty about defeating the boss alone but believes in his chances as he continues to level up. Suddenly, he notices an entire pack of lichens emerging from the shadows. Unfazed, Jinwoo charges at them in defiance. Engaging in a battle with the lichens, he slashes and slices through their attacks. Even when surrounded, he remains fearless, hoping the lichens provide a worthy challenge and don't die too easily. As he battles, memories of his past flash before his eye, and a smile crosses his face. Relishing the fight, he levels up during the battle, ultimately defeating the entire pack and earning the title of Wolf Assassin. Jinwoo, exhausted and sweating, takes a moment to catch his breath after a challenging battle in the dungeon. He notices that his sword is nearly broken and reflects on the expendable nature of his weapons. Examining his inventory, he finds items obtained from the battle and those remaining from his previous adventures. Surprisingly, he discovers the teleportation stone, a valuable item, and contemplates leaving the dungeon. However, the desire to become stronger pulls him back, and he wonders if the dungeon will disappear like a time-limited event if he exits. Feeling toyed with by an unknown force, he stores the teleportation stone in his inventory and resolves to go deeper into the dungeon. Meanwhile, Juhai receives a call from the Hunter Association requesting her assistance in a nearby dungeon that has experienced a break. Despite apologizing for her earlier actions, she agrees to help due to the shortage of healers. As Jinwoo progresses deeper, he faces new creatures, defeating them and leveling up in the process. He takes note of the color of their names, indicating their relative strength. Initially facing a red-named lichen, he now encounters white-named ones, showcasing his growing power. Reaching a flight of stairs, Jinwoo hesitates, realizing he can't defeat the monster waiting at the end. Examining his stats, he notices his level hasn't increased recently, and his sword is on the verge of breaking. Despite the challenges, he descends the stairs and finds the environment has changed. The peaceful train station ambience is replaced by a rushing sound, and a powerful monster, a water snake, appears. Jinwoo recognizes that they are at the same level. Attempting to engage the snake with his sword, he realizes it's ineffective against the snake's scales. The snake attacks swiftly, forcing Jinwoo to dodge and strategize. Despite his efforts, the snake knocks him into the water, presenting a new challenge. Jinwoo manages to escape the water, but the relentless snake continues its assault. The battle intensifies as the snake's attacks become faster and more aggressive. As Jinwoo struggles to fend off the snake, he faces a moment of vulnerability. The snake smacks him with its tail, sending him flying. Jinwoo, feeling powerless against the formidable opponent, recalls the words of Gunhee, who encouraged him to work hard and change the perception that labeled him the weakest hunter. In a desperate attempt, Jinwoo grabs his broken sword, questioning how much stronger he must become to overcome constant challenges and ridicule. The snake relentlessly attacks, pinning him against the wall and crushing him, creating a tense and precarious situation. Jinwoo felt the weight of a hurtful nickname, the weakest hunter. Being weak in a world where strength is valued made people look down on him, even if he was smart. Realizing that overwhelming power often overcomes the weak, Jinwoo decided he didn't want to be considered gentle anymore. He wanted strength. That's why he entered the dungeon. With determination, Jinwoo faced a monstrous water snake in battle. Channeling an inner strength, he leaped at the snake like a possessed force, attempting to climb its massive body. The snake, however, knocked him away. Undeterred, Jinwoo stood up, vowing not to give up until he became stronger, a determination that manifested in a blue aura surrounding him. Blocking the snake's attacks, Jinwoo wore down its tough scales. Feeling like he needed to give more, he put in extra effort. Compared to facing a powerful being he considered akin to God, the snake seemed insignificant. Taking advantage of an opening, Jinwoo jumped into the air, driving his sword into a vulnerable spot in the snake's scale. The battle continued with Jinwoo slicing the snake's side to further weaken its scales. In a daring move, the snake opened its mouth wide, swallowing Jinwoo whole. His sword flew into the air, but Jinwoo clung to it. Using his strength, he crushed the snake's scale from the inside, causing harm to the creature. Despite the snake's attempts to dislodge him, Jinwoo held on tightly. With unwavering determination, he pressed down on the snake's neck with all his power until he emerged victorious. The battle resulted in Jinwoo leveling up, a moment that brought a smile to his face. It was a tangible sign of his growing strength. As a reward for his triumph, Jinwoo obtained a powerful dagger, twice as strong as his previous sword, equipped with paralysis and bleeding effects. Additionally, he acquired a vial containing the snake's venom, which he considered overpowered in its effects. A notification signaled the dungeon's reset after the boss's defeat, returning the station to its normal state. Jinwoo steps out into an empty area, curious about the time. A soldier approaches, asking why he's there and if he missed the announcement. Seeing Jinwoo's sword, the soldier recognizes him as a hunter and apologizes, offering to take him to the dungeon break site. The soldier explains the dungeon break situation, mentioning that most monsters have been defeated, except for a giant magic beast, the dungeon boss. Despite the distance, Jinwoo can sense the boss's magical aura. The massive magic golem is engaged in battle with hunters, while the police keep citizens behind barricades. Upon reaching the site, Jinwoo observes the lack of teamwork among the present hunters. Most are low-ranked, and the battles only prolonged due to a higher-ranked tank. Looking at the healers, he notes 2 in D rank and 1 in B rank. The B rank healer, Juhee, is not helping as she's dazed and still shaken from her encounter with God. Attempting a healing circle, she loses concentration, breaking the circle. Jinwoo empathizes with Juhee but is no longer scared, considering they face a D rank monster, lower than the one he recently defeated. Ready to act, he rolls up his sleeves, preparing to jump into action. The hunters struggle, hoping for a higher-ranked comrade. Knowing he can defeat the monster by breaking its defense, Jinwoo decides to strike with his most powerful hit. Throwing his sword with tremendous force, he shatters the golem's defense. The hunters capitalize on the opportunity, successfully defeating the golem. The tank questions how they suddenly succeeded after their previous ineffective attacks. Curious about Jinwoo's involvement, the tank asks the soldier who brought him, but Jinwoo has disappeared. Terrified by Jinwoo's power, the tank wonders if he is a high-ranked hunter. Jinwoo appears much stronger, though he didn't expect to break the monster's defense with just 1 hit, suspecting the golem's vitality was already low before his strike. The hospital nurses chat about Jinwoo's fit body and cuteness while he does his morning workout. They're surprised by how buff he's become compared to when he first arrived. One nurse accidentally walks in on him shirtless, and Jinwoo quickly apologizes. She notices his muscles and wonders if he always had such a good physique. After snapping back to reality, the nurse informs Jinwoo that it's his discharge day. Checking if he's comfortable, Jinwoo assures her of his full recovery. She instructs him to complete discharge procedures at the counter when ready. He thanks her for the care and starts to leave the room. Just then, the girl shows him her phone and asks if she can have his phone number. Jinwoo believes that she wants to send his test results, which are due later today, and gives her his phone number, saying that he has no problem if she's okay with it. Meanwhile, a TV show features Yuno, one of the SSS-Rank hunters, discussing his life outside missions. He emphasizes the importance of daily training, explaining his background as a former firefighter. Jinna, watching the news, realizes she's late for school and hurries out, exchanging well wishes with Jinwoo. Jinwoo is patting his stomach, and Jinna notices his toned abs showing through his shirt. She asks if he's been exercising, and he replies with just a little. Jinna observes the height difference between them and wonders if his increased height is a result of his training. Before heading out, she goes to put on her school shoes, and Jinwoo hands her an umbrella she forgot. He playfully nudges her towards the door, and she bids him goodbye. Once she's gone, Jinwoo heads to the living room, checking his daily tasks. He has completed the others, except for running, which he plans to do later. Examining his stats, he notices unallocated points. Understanding the need for strength, agility, and perception, he decides to distribute the points among these attributes. A call from his landlord interrupts his thoughts. The landlord inquires about the rent, and Jinwoo admits he hasn't paid for the month yet. Promising to transfer the money, Jinwoo ends the call with the landlord expressing appreciation for his prompt response. Jinwoo is grappling with uncertainty about a potential second awakening, but he's now capable of swiftly defeating goblins, opening up opportunities for him to earn a living. Seated on his couch, he navigates through available dungeons, recognizing the need for a high-level one to yield substantial rewards. However, his low rank poses a barrier to accessing such dungeons. The idea of undergoing a reevaluation crosses his mind, envisioning a higher rank that would thrust him into the spotlight. With increased attention, the potential for earning more money emerges. Yet, Jinwoo is aware that individuals with a second awakening are rare, and hunters whose stats increase with level are practically non-existent. Cognizant of the intrusive nature of media scrutiny, he decides to abandon the notion of seeking higher recognition. He decided to keep his abilities under wraps until he fully grasps them. Jinwoo receives a surprising notification on his phone. Startled, he hastily dresses and heads to a specific location. While accomplishing his daily task, he is on the verge of claiming his reward when a man suddenly calls out to him. Gong-suk introduces himself to Jin-woo. Realizing Jin-woo is an E-rank adventurer, Gong-suk's party members recognize him as the infamous weakest hunter. Despite one member laughing at Jin-woo's nickname, Gong-suk reprimands them and apologizes for their behavior. He then invites Jin-woo to join their dungeon raid to bolster their numbers. Gong-suk allows Jin-woo to accompany them but clarifies that he won't receive any loot, only a commission for his services. Examining the group, Jin-woo notices 4 C-rank hunters and 2 who are D-rank or lower. Curious about Jin-woo's role, Gong-suk explains that he'll be responsible for carrying their luggage and belongings during the expedition. Jin-woo inquires if there's a healer in the group. The man explains that private teams like theirs find it challenging to recruit healers, but manage without one. Despite Jin-woo's concern, the man hands him the contract, which states the party won't be responsible for any injuries he sustains. Jin-woo signs it, and another hunter named Jin-ho introduces himself as a D-rank member brought in to fill their numbers. Impressed by Jin-ho's equipment, Jin-woo assumes he's from a wealthy family. They equip their gear and head out. Jin-ho asks if the bags are too heavy, but Jin-woo assures him they're fine. They reach the gate, and despite its immense size, they doubt it's a C-rank gate. Gong-suk explains it was ranked by investigators. Jin-ho questions entering the large gate, and Jin-woo clarifies that only the magic flux matters. He adds that gates with a rank below C aren't very dangerous. Jin-ho is amazed by Jin-woo's knowledge, who mentions his experience as a hunter. Admitting it's his first time entering a C-rank dungeon, Jin-woo assures them it's safe. Gong-suk leads the party through the gate, finding darkness inside. He instructs a member to cast light, surprised by the absence of monsters and luminescent stones, which are typically found in dungeons. Jin-woo recalls entering another completely dark dungeon in his memory. Jin-ho, curious, asks Jin-woo about luminescent stones, and he explains they are glowing rocks often found in cave-like dungeons, emitting light from the floor or roof. Jin-ho, still bewildered by the abundance of gems and stones associated with dungeons, receives assurance from Jin-woo that he will become accustomed to it. As they venture deeper into the cave, Jin-ho remains surprised by the absence of any visible threats. Wondering if dungeons can exist without monsters, he questions Jin-woo, who instructs him to keep quiet. Jin-woo, using his acute hearing, detects hidden monsters choosing to remain concealed. Gong-suk prepares the party for an imminent battle. Jin-woo is astonished to find that the monsters move together, rushing towards any light source. He identifies them as insect-type magic beasts, and the party, not thrilled about facing insects, examines the holes, anticipating the insect attacks. Unease spreads as the insect sounds draw nearer. Jin-woo listens carefully, pinpointing the insects in a hole above the party. Gong-suk decides to attract the insects with his taunt skill, while others attack from behind. Jin-ho urges Jin-woo to stay by his side for protection. The party successfully executes their strategy, defeating the insects with coordinated teamwork. Impressed, Jin-woo feels a twinge of frustration. After the victory, Gong-suk queries Jin-woo about how he predicted the insects' approach. Jin-woo explains it was his intuition. One of the party members calls out to Gong-suk, and they notice the insects were killed by something that bit them, not their swords or magic. They suspect a monster preying on the insects. Jin-woo advises Jin-ho to be cautious due to his expensive gear. At the association gym, hunters working out hear a huge explosion. Some are surprised, but one hunter mentions it's their guild master's workout routine. They are impressed, but Yunho thinks it's not enough for a warm-up. Jin-woo shares more about dungeons with Jin-ho and questions if he can handle the luggage in such a massive dungeon. Jin-woo insists he's fine earning without fighting, but he's suspicious of the too-good-to-be-true deal. He remains uneasy about the lack of a healer in the group and the need to fabricate monsters. Discovering more half-dead insects increases their suspicion, thinking the dungeon boss is nearby. About to move forward, Gong-suk asks his party member to light up the cave. They proceed, cutting through cobwebs, anticipating the boss room. They find numerous mana crystals, sparking dreams of newfound wealth among the group. Everyone fantasizes about what they'll do with their potential fortune. Jin-ho examines Jin-woo's contract and suggests he gather crystals since they aren't considered spoils. Jin-ho is assured by Gong-suk that Jin-woo will get his share after defeating the boss. They plan to move the crystals before defeating the boss, as the dungeon gate will close. Taking advantage of the boss's sleep, they decide to proceed. Gong-suk realizes they lack the necessary tools left at their car and instructs Jin-ho and Jin-woo to stay back while they retrieve them. Jin-ho is uneasy, but Gong-suk assures him they're safe as the boss is asleep. Though C-rank dungeons typically require 8 people, Jin-woo recalls Gong-suk saying they've always managed with 6 members, wondering about the absence of regulars to fill the gap. Leaving the room, Dong-suk orders one member to seal it off. Realizing the betrayal, Jin-ho attempts to break through the wall to no avail. The dungeon boss awakens and approaches them. Feeling powerless, Jin-woo recalls his encounter with God and gains confidence. He instructs Jin-ho to step back as he prepares to face the monster with his sword from the inventory. As Hong's group exits the dungeon, the mage questions why they didn't take care of the two newcomers themselves. Hong explains that killing them might awaken the spider, disrupting their mana crystal harvest. Hong assures the mage that their plan will succeed, as the inexperienced newcomers stand no chance against the spider. They intend to let the spider consume them and then retreat. While they can't force their way in without alerting the spider, Hong knows of a hidden path. The worst-case scenario is if the spider remains awake after consuming the newcomers. If they fail to retrieve the mana crystals, they'll still profit from Jin-ho's valuable equipment. Both Hong and the mage agree they're no match for the spider alone. Jin-ho tries to dissuade Jin-woo from facing the boss, arguing that even an elite C-rank hunter wouldn't stand a chance. Instead, Jin-ho suggests finding an exit. Yet, Jin-woo feels strangely calm. He realizes he may have reached a point where he no longer fears C-rank bosses. At level 18, he believes he stands a chance against it. After confronting the snake, Jin-woo declares the real hunt has begun. Meanwhile, Go, the Hunters Association president, is exhausted from endless meetings. His driver suggests sparring to lift his spirits, and Go, always willing to guide the younger generation, accepts. Back in the dungeon, Jin-woo encounters the formidable spider with its incredibly tough skin and powerful attacks, knowing one wrong move could mean his demise. Jin-ho observes Jin-woo's movements intently, quickly realizing they're unlike those of any ranked hunter. Puzzled, Jin-ho questions Jin-woo's true identity, wondering if he might be a false ranker. Such individuals deliberately lower their ranking by controlling their magic power, often for sinister purposes. Filled with regret for entering the dungeon, Jin-ho watches as Jin-woo struggles to penetrate the spider's resilient hide. With fatigue setting in rapidly, Jin-woo knows he must end the battle soon. Assessing his options, Jin-woo relies on his dagger's paralysis and drain ability, identifying them as his best chance for victory. However, his plan is thwarted when the spider unleashes an unexpected acid attack. Determined to overcome this obstacle, Jin-woo decides to utilize a new skill, Dash, to close the distance. Although he manages to land an attack on the spider's face, the debuffs from his dagger are nullified. Undeterred, Jin-woo persists, striking the spider repeatedly in a desperate attempt to weaken it. Despite pushing himself to the limit, Jin-woo's exhaustion leaves him vulnerable, and he is ultimately struck by the spider. Jin-woo finds himself in a perilous situation, but he recalls a reward from his daily quest that grants full recovery. With swift thinking, he activates it, much to Jin-ho's relief. Renewed, Jin-woo resumes his attack on the spider, managing to pierce one of its eyes with his dagger's debuffs taking effect. Seizing the opportunity, Jin-woo continues to strike, inflicting more damage and applying additional debuffs. Eventually, the spider succumbs to the onslaught, and Jin-woo receives notification of his victory. Reflecting on his narrow escape, Jin-woo realizes his luck in not choosing a reward before entering the dungeon, which surely would have led to his demise. Jin-ho is astounded by Jin-woo's solo defeat of the dungeon boss, strengthening his suspicion that Jin-woo may be a false ranker. As Jin-woo retrieves a gem from the defeated spider, Jin-ho offers to carry the supplies henceforth, admiring Jin-woo's prowess. Encouraging Jin-woo to rest, Jin-ho takes charge of mining mana crystals. Meanwhile, Hong and his group are taken aback by the survival of the newcomers. In another setting, Go demonstrates his skill to Woo in a training session, effortlessly overpowering him. Impressed, Woo marvels at Go's prowess, feeling grateful for the session's uplifting effect on Go. Go admits he's not as strong as before, but he acknowledges Woo's dedication to training. Woo understands that training won't increase his level but can enhance his skills. Go emphasizes the importance of both physical and mental strength for hunters, especially in dangerous dungeons filled with unsavory characters. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, Hong's group concludes that the newbies survived due to the spider's incompetence. They ridicule the spider for its defeat by inexperienced hunters. Hong reveals his plan to Jin-ho, mentioning his knowledge of Jin-ho's wealthy background, which Jin-ho fails to see the relevance of. Hang then presents Jin-ho with a grim ultimatum: either kill Jin-woo or face death alongside him. Hang explains their typical practice of eliminating party members to keep all the spoils, but offers Jin-ho a chance to join them. Refusal means death for both Jin-ho and Jin-woo. Hong ponders the potential danger posed by Jin-ho's powerful gear, fearing it may have bestowed him with abilities to defeat the spider. Preferring not to take any chances, he aims to pit Jin-ho against the weaker Jin-woo. However, Hong is taken aback when Jin-ho unexpectedly aligns himself with Jin-woo. The malevolent group decides to end their lives, prompting Hung to question if the newbies have ever been forced to kill before. Suddenly, Jinwoo receives an urgent quest requiring him to defeat 6 enemies. Identifying Jinwoo as the weaker target, the group's mage launches an attack. Jinho anxiously observes his friend's plight, deeply concerned for Jinwoo's safety. Elsewhere, a member of Chahee's group boasts of her prowess, having swiftly defeated an ranked beast. She and her comrades are relieved to belong to top guilds, shielded from the unsavory rumors circulating about other squads. Among these rumors are accounts of strike teams with alarmingly high fatality rates. Back in the dungeon, Hung resigns to defeat, declaring Jinwoo's demise as imminent. Jinwoo scolds himself for his forgetfulness, recognizing the harsh reality of survival in his world. Violence, lies, and betrayal reign supreme, and he's enraged by his lapse in memory. He realizes he's grown desensitized to this environment, a dangerous state of mind. Having calmed down, Jinwoo reflects on his carelessness and arrogance. The leveling system now compels him to kill, prompting him to question its motives. It's clear the system wants him alive and strong, leading Jinwoo to decide to use it to his advantage. Addressing the group, Jinwoo acknowledges their reminder about the brutal nature of dungeon life. He warns them to prepare for situations where this harsh reality turns against them. One member objects to being called prey, prompting Jinwoo to demonstrate his point by swiftly dispatching one of them. Jinwoo comes to terms with the fact that he's just taken a life, but he knows it was either that or his own demise. He can't afford to hesitate now, only the strong survive in this unforgiving world. The group, shaken from witnessing an E-rank defeat one of their D ranks, launches an attack on Jinwoo. However, their efforts are futile as Jinwoo swiftly turns the table, eliminating them one by one. His debuffs prove effective, claiming the lives of 2 more adversaries. The archer falls victim to his relentless assault, followed shortly by the mage. With just one opponent remaining, Jinwoo's newfound strength leaves Jinho astonished. Hong realizes Jinwoo had been concealing his true power, but warns him of the difference between them and other C ranks. Undeterred, Hong fortifies his defense, confident in his ability to withstand Jinwoo's attacks with his steel-like body. As Hong initiates his assault, Jinwoo surprises him with his remarkable speed, catching him off guard. Jinwoo calmly recognizes Hong's strength, but delivers some unsettling news. With a swift and decisive move, Jinwoo overwhelms him, revealing his continuous growth. Hong realizes Jinwoo's true prowess and offers to double his payment. However, Jinwoo, recalling Hong's attempts on his life, dismisses his plea for mercy. Despite Hong's threats, Jinwoo reminds him of the dungeon's code of silence. In a final act, Hong attempts to intimidate Jinwoo, but Jinwoo swiftly puts an end to his life. With the dungeon boss defeated, Jinwoo's mission is accomplished, but the dungeon begins to collapse around them. Emerging as the sole survivors, they report their victory, raising suspicion due to their low ranks. However, attention shifts to Jinho's remarkable gear, diverting focus from Jinwoo's achievement. Jinwoo, astonished by his unexpected reward, discovers a new skill imbued with murderous intent. This skill instills fear and weakens adversaries. The naive official attributes Jinho's survival to his gear, assuming Jinwoo, ranked E, merely concealed himself. Jinho commends Jinwoo, but as rain begins to fall, he senses unease. Jinwoo, however, remains composed, grateful for ensuring his sister's comfort with an umbrella. Chief Woo gets a report about 6 hunters who died in a dungeon ranked C. He notices that the survivors are ranked D and E, which usually means they ran away from the dungeon, a common thing. However, his assistant tells him they didn't run away. Instead, they defeated the dungeon boss and got out. The assistant mentions that Jinho, one of the survivors, has fancy gear, which probably helped them succeed. Chief Woo tells his assistant to check things out further if he thinks something's not right. He also remembers Jinwoo as the second survivor and recalls him being the only one to survive in a similar situation before. The assistant adds that one of the survivors who died in the dungeon was Dongsuk, which worries Chief Woo because Dongsuk's brother also died in the dungeon. Meanwhile, Jinwoo comes home, surprising his sister with souvenirs, and she asks if something good happened. He says he's not sure if it was good, but he managed to save money for their mom's expenses and their needs. Jinha finds it odd since Jinwoo is usually careful with money. During dinner, Jinha asks about his last adventure, assuming his friends must be tough since he returned unhurt. This reminds him of Gongsuk and his team, leaving him speechless. Jinha asks Jinwoo if they beat the enemy, but Jinwoo's lost in thought, cracking open a beer. He reminisces about easily defeating Gongsuk and his crew despite their strength gap. Back then, he didn't hesitate or hate them. He wonders if he's become braver with power. His beer drips, unnoticed. Feeling sorry, Jinwoo realizes his foes were human, not beasts. Jinha snaps him back, worried he's sick. He fibs, saying he's thinking about store changes. Jinho warns him not to worry her and to focus on the future. To protect his family, he vows to act differently if ambushed again. A warning about a harmful substance pops up, auto-detoxified. Jinwoo's done eating, leaving leftovers for Jinha, teasing her about overeating. In his room, Jinwoo takes a sip of beer, but the system detoxifies it instantly, realizing he can't get drunk. Suddenly, he receives rewards from a side quest, granting him health and longevity. These rewards stem from the double dungeon, explaining his body's ability to clear toxins automatically. Many events have unfolded since then, and Jinwoo hadn't had time to check his rewards, leaving him uncertain about many things. Falling asleep, he's awakened by a knock on his door. Jinha informs him someone named Jinho is calling for him. Seeing the beer can, Jinha warns him about alcohol's toxicity, but he reassures her. Leaving his room, Jinwoo meets Jinho in a cafe. Jinho apologizes for the sudden call, expressing gratitude for Jinwoo saving his life. Jinwoo thanks him for the magic gem and keeping the gong suck incident under wraps. Jinho understands it was self-defense. When Jinwoo asks why he called, Jinho reveals plans to assemble an attack team, but Jinwoo declines immediately, uninterested in mingling with wealthy individuals. Despite Jinho's efforts to persuade him, Jinwoo refuses, suspecting Jinho wants to become a guild master. Jinho pleads with Jinwoo to listen, and Jinwoo agrees to hear him out. Jinho reveals his goal of obtaining a guild master's license, requiring participation in 20 raids. He explains that their recent mission was his first step. Although confident in passing the written exam, he doubts his combat skills. Jinwoo learns Jinho's motive stems from his family's construction company, aiming to establish a guild as his father desires. Understanding Dungeon's valuable resources, Jinwoo realizes the company's intent to utilize these spoils for everyday items. Jinho reveals plans to hire an S-Rank hunter as guild master, with his brother as the assistant. Jinwoo comprehends the rarity of S-Rank hunters, learning about Min, an S-Rank hunter, who hasn't joined a guild and is retired. Jinwoo realizes Jinho's plan to recruit S-Rank hunters from other guilds, and warns him against it because it could make enemies of those guilds. Jinho admits his brother's weakness, and reveals his desire to become guild master. He believes completing a raid with Jinwoo, a lower-ranked hunter, will impress his father into thinking he's become stronger. Despite Jinwoo's potential, Jinho insists their partnership would be beneficial. Jinho offers building plans as a reward, but Jinwoo finds them insignificant, considering his potential for higher ranks. Aware of the danger of associating with those who don't understand leveling up, Jinwoo declines Jinho's offer. Jinho then pleads for Jinwoo's silence in exchange for his help, but Jinwoo's intense glare startles him. Gongsun instructs his assistant Laura to bring him documents about Jinwoo and Jinha. Laura brings them, and Gongsun is furious about his brother's death. Despite Laura's attempts to console him, he interrupts her, demanding the documents. He questions Laura about the consequences of taking someone's life in another country. Shocked, Laura explains he could be prosecuted under treaty laws if the country has them, or by their own country if not. She suggests negotiating with the government for leniency. Gongsun orders Laura to adjust his schedule, but she warns him of the impact on guild operations. He insists on clearing his schedule for later. Observing Jinho as a D-rank and Jinwoo as an E-rank hunter, Gongsun hopes they're still alive when he visits them. Jinwoo and Jinha go for their morning routine together. Jinwoo is surprised Jinha joined him today, thinking she might be overdoing it because she ate too much chicken. During their jog, Jinwoo randomly asks Jinha what she would do with 30 billion. Curious, Jinha answers that she'd use it for their mom's medical bills and her college fees, saving the rest because it's a lot of money. Satisfied with her response, Jinwoo speeds ahead, leaving Jinha impressed by the strength gap between hunters and humans. Meanwhile, Jinwoo discovers his daily quests continue counting even after surpassing the goal. Intrigued, he pushes himself further, deciding to double his daily quests, turning them into secret quests. After completing the secret quest, Jinwoo chooses a blessed random loot box as his reward. When it opens, a miniature sun emerges, transforming into a key. The system reveals the location of an S-rank dungeon, which the key unlocks, surprising Jinwoo. Jinwoo discovers he can gather ingredients for the elixir of life, a potion that can heal all illness, by defeating a slime. Determined to help his mom, who's in the hospital, he decides to clear the dungeon to obtain the elixir. Despite knowing there will be powerful beasts inside similar to those that troubled even S-rank hunters, he opens the dungeon gate. Entering the dungeon, he feels a bit scared but relies on a teleportation stone as a backup plan. Suddenly, a three-headed monster, the Hellgate Cerberus, appears, but Jinwoo remains unfazed. Determined to become stronger, he summons his dagger and confronts the monster. His title as a wolf assassin boosts his strength, allowing him to rush at the Cerberus with increased speed. Despite his efforts, his attacks fail to harm the monster. Jinwoo tries slashing the monster multiple times, but his attacks have no effect. Even after using his title skill, he's surprised by the huge gap between them. Attempting to use his murderous intent skill, Jinwoo finds it nullified by the Cerberus. Dodging the monster's attack, he manages to stab one of its heads. Next, he tries casting paralysis and life debuff with his dagger, but the monster cancels it out. As the monster attacks again, Jinwoo fails to dodge in time and gets bitten on the arms, losing some HP and screaming in pain. Shocked by the damage, he sees a third of his HP gone from just one attack. The monster prepares to crush him, but Jinwoo dodges and stands up. Suddenly, the Cerberus activates its rage skill, doubling its abilities for 3 minutes, and slashes at Jinwoo with its paw. Jinwoo struggles to react as he's struck with great force, causing him to lose more of his HP. With no other option, he activates his full recovery skill and counterattacks the monster. Although he manages to stab the monster in the eye, he learns it no longer feels pain. Thrown off by the monster, Jinwoo barely regains his balance before it lands a series of attacks, cutting his HP in half. Despite the relentless assault, Jinwoo's HP drops to 30%. His passive skill of willpower activates, granting him a 50% damage reduction buff. As the monster charges at him, Jinwoo kicks up dust to create a distraction and hides behind a rock. He's relieved that the system warns him of danger, allowing him to avoid death. Deciding to wait out the monster's skill for 3 minutes, Jinwoo prepares to use his teleportation stone. However, the monster suddenly attacks again, causing Jinwoo to lose the stone. Jinwoo quickly jumps to safety as his HP drops dangerously low. Unsure how to survive, he decides to go shopping while the monster searches for him. Buying 3 bottles of an exclusive healing potion, he finds each bottle only restores 100 HP. Remembering he's immune to toxins, he takes some water snake venom from his inventory, granting him a 20% physical damage reduction. When the monster finds him and attacks, Jinwoo doesn't give up, using the opportunity after the monster's skill ends to land as many attacks as possible. Despite his efforts, the monster remains unhurt. The monster bites him again, draining his HP almost entirely. Using his last strength, Jinwoo targets the monster's weak spot repeatedly until it finally falls. With a considerable level up, his wounds heal, bringing relief. Reviewing his rewards for defeating the Cerberus, Jinwoo finds a key to the demon's castle, and a random item revealing the pattern for the elixir of life, requiring 3 materials found in the castle. Realizing the danger of the demon's castle, Jinwoo decides to return when he's stronger. Later, Jinwoo visits his mom in the hospital and considers whether the elixir of life could cure her. Although he lacks the necessary materials, he knows where to find them. However, he acknowledges his current weakness and resolves to become stronger before attempting to obtain them. Jinwoo arranges a meeting with Jinho at a cafe and agrees to join him in 19 degrees Celsius rank raid missions. Jinho is surprised by Jinwoo's acceptance, but learns it's due to specific circumstances. Before agreeing, Jinwoo sets a condition. Only the 2 of them will participate in the raid missions. Jinho wonders how they'll manage to conquer the C-rank dungeons with just the 2 of them. He reminds Jinwoo that they need at least 8 people to enter a C-rank dungeon. Jinwoo advises him to find additional members, like Dong-suk did, to make up the numbers. Jinho worries about the danger of the missions, but Jinwoo assures him they can succeed as long as they stay safe. Jinwoo mentions that his father will surely recognize their achievements if they complete the raid missions unharmed. After considering this, Jinho agrees to Jinwoo's condition. He assures Jinwoo he'll take care of recruiting additional members and managing the dungeon gates. Meanwhile, Ha-in is jogging at a racetrack and decides to take a break to hydrate and stretch her muscles. Sensing someone behind her, she confronts them and questions why they're stalking her. The person, unsurprised by her detection due to her S-rank hunter status, apologizes for interrupting her training and offers her his business card. His name is revealed to be Yun. Jinho is in a car with his dad, who reminisces about when the dungeon gates first appeared. He explains how politics, news, and social events have become connected to the dungeons ever since. The dungeons contain various infrastructures crucial for the survival of ordinary people, and he understands that without them, survival would be difficult. He knows that only hunters have the ability to retrieve valuable resources from the dungeons. These hunters are overseen by a government agency called the Hunter Association, responsible for classifying, registering, and managing them. The association also assigns manpower to dungeons and handles dungeon breaks. He acknowledges that the government agency can only operate with the support of the guild, which controls the main resources related to hunters. The 5 major guilds in the country Hunters Guild, White Tiger Guild, Famed Guild, Fane Guild, and Night Guild have monopolized these resources. He expresses his concern to Jinho, stating that they can't just stand by while these resources essential to ordinary people fall into the wrong hands. He believes that those who have contributed to the nation's development should be responsible for managing these resources. He explains to Jinho that this is why they must establish a guild. Jinho agrees with his father's plan. He and his brother jointly manage a guild that recruits S-rank hunters, which is quite risky. He doubts whether he can handle running a guild by himself at this point. Meanwhile, Jinwoo goes for a jog to complete his daily task. Sitting on a park bench, he opens the game system and notices that the extra tasks are no longer counted. He wonders if he can still receive rewards like the previous secret quest, hoping for another item like the Demon Castle's key. However, he only receives a partly played bingo card from the random loot box. Though disappointed, he understands it's just chance and doesn't dwell on it. Leaving the park, Jinwoo walks through the city streets, reflecting on his status in the game system. Realizing he needs more ability points to become stronger, he decides to level up quickly. But he's limited to waiting for Jinho's C-ranked mission raids. Recalling encounters with centipedes in a dungeon, he considers returning to defeat them for more points. However, he realizes it may not be as beneficial as before, as he might escape easily without gaining points. As he receives a message from the Hunter Association inviting him to participate in a D-rank gate mission, he hesitates, knowing he can't fight alone since the association requires a team. Ultimately, he accepts the mission, realizing it's better than doing nothing and that he can't afford to waste time. Meanwhile, some apprentices are training in a dojo. One of the apprentices admits to his master that he's still not strong enough to beat him. The master reassures him that it's normal not to win, but the apprentice still feels ashamed. He wants to spar with the master when he's at his best, but the master is surprised he hasn't given up. Suddenly, he receives an urgent call-up message and feels sad about low-ranked hunters being treated like errand boys for the association. His apprentice asks if he's thought about retiring. Recalling a past raid where he lost an arm, he considers if he's become a hindrance. His apprentice tries to clarify, but the master explains he wants to contribute as much as possible before his time is up. Meanwhile, a hunter informs his wife about being called for a raid mission. She urges him to quit the dangerous profession, citing the risks and lives lost in previous missions. He explains they need the money for their daughter's education and reassures her that the association won't send them to overly perilous dungeons. He tells her the last mission was an exception and apologizes for causing her worry. She advises him to be cautious, and their daughter asks if he's strong. He assures her he is and can defeat powerful monsters. Elsewhere, Yunho confronts Jongin in his office, feeling angry about being deceived. Kongin pretends he doesn't know, and Yunho mentions he's the one who arranged the media interview for him. Jongin acknowledges seeing the interview on TV, and thinks Yunho did well because his speech seemed sincere. Yunho is angry that Jongin is shifting his responsibilities onto him. Jongin explains that Yunho's attitude and honesty represent the hunters, which is what their chairman wants. He suggests that Yunho isn't suitable for that. Yunho decides to drop the accusations and wonders why Jongin called him. Jongin informs him that Yujin Construction, Jinho's dad's company, wants to establish a guild. Yunho says he already knew and heard they were recruiting members. He realizes he's interfering unnecessarily, as Wei and Jongin recognize. Yunho is certain Jongin knew he was aware of all this and decides to find out what Jangyin wanted to tell him. Meanwhile, Juhi receives a call from her mom, who's concerned because she doesn't call often. Her mom asks about her work as a hunter, expressing doubt about her strength as a B-rank hunter. Feeling timid, Juhi's mom suggests she come home to help with household chores, believing she's a burden to other hunters. Juhi becomes angry and tells her mom to stop making decisions for her, asserting that she will make her own choices. She ends the call feeling frustrated that her mother thinks she's a burden to other hunters. Despite recalling her past uselessness in raids, she decides to give it another try and leaves her room. However, she receives a message from the Hunter Association asking her to join a D-rank gate raid. Meanwhile, Haoen walks through the Hunter Association building and encounters Yunho, who ignores her. She enters Jongin's office and informs him that she was approached by a scout from Yujin Construction, offering her the role of guild master in their new guild. Handing Jongin the business card, she explains the situation. Jongin realizes she turned down the offer and feels relieved. Haoen mentions seeing Yunho earlier and wonders about their conversation. Yunho sits alone in a room with a glass of scotch, reflecting on his conversation with Jongin about Jeju Island. He wonders why Jongin brought up the island, recalling that it was sealed off after a failed raid, and updates about it were given annually. He understands that people are trying to forget about the island and its significance. Yunho understood why people wanted to forget about the island, but Jong-un couldn't forget. Despite being praised as the strongest hunter, Jong-un was determined to clear the island in the future and needed Yunho's support. He wanted them to become stronger and gather allies to change public opinion about the island. Now Yunho understood why Jong-un arranged the media interview and trained new hunters. Jong-un wondered if Yunho also had unfinished business on the island, and Yunho remembered the friends he left behind during the raid. In a dimly lit room at an undisclosed location, a suspicious man strikes a deal with another to end the lives of certain individuals. Jinwoo tells Jinha he's leaving, and she questions why he has work on a holiday. She notices he's been very busy lately, unlike before when he had to take long breaks between missions to heal from injury. She wonders if his training is paying off, and he reassures her that he can now make a steady living thanks to it. As he leaves without his usual gear, Jinha is surprised, but Jinwoo insists he'll be fine without it. Despite her attempts to stop him, he walks out, leaving her astonished as he heads for a raid, not just a quick trip to the convenience store. Mr. Song, the dojo master, knows that his sword wouldn't work against magic beasts, and his martial arts skills wouldn't be effective in a dungeon. He unexpectedly meets Jinwoo and notices how much Jinwoo has changed since their last encounter. Although Jinwoo lost his leg, he explains that it was miraculously healed when he woke up in the hospital. Mr. Song assumes a skilled healer restored Jinwoo's leg and is relieved to see Jinwoo in good health. Jinwoo feels sad that Mr. Song didn't regain his arm, but Mr. Song reassures him that he has adapted to it. Jinwoo is surprised to learn that Mr. Song was also summoned by the Hunter Association. As they approach the gate, Jinwoo notices the hunters who survived the encounter with God's statue. They avoid eye contact with him out of shame for sacrificing him for their own safety. Mr. Song finds it suspicious that only survivors from that dungeon were called together. Juhee is amazed by how much Jinwoo has changed since they last met. Suddenly, a car arrives at the gate, and 3 prisoners step out. They flirt with Juhee, but an association hunter silences them. An association official explains that the prisoners are substitute hunters joining them for the mission to reduce their sentences. Although the hunters are surprised to work with criminals, the official assures them that the prisoners won't cause trouble. They learn they'll be accompanied by a B-rank hunter named Tishik, who can handle the prisoners. Jinwoo suggests Juhee skip the raid, but she insists on going with him. Tishik introduces himself and wonders who will lead the raid. Jinwoo lets Song lead the raid, and he appreciates that. Song takes full responsibility for the previous dungeon failure. Song credits Jinwoo for being the reason they survived, and he thanks him on behalf of all the survivors, although Jinwoo doesn't seek acknowledgement. Kim agrees to Song leading, and Tishik stares at Jinwoo for some reason. Everyone gets ready to enter the gate, and Song officially starts the raid. This brings an end to our episode. Inside the dungeon, the prisoners are doing a good job defeating some goblins. Song wonders who the real enemies are and shows his own strength. The group of goblins is eventually defeated, and Song is impressed by how much stronger Jinwoo has become. Even Juhee notices that Jinwoo hasn't been hurt yet and hopes that nobody will need her to heal them. Song is still amazed, as Jinwoo's aura is different. Tishik has them move forward, but they find a split in the path. The dungeon has been easier than expected, so they decide to split up. This means more risk, but they believe it will help them clear the dungeon faster. Jinwoo can sense that the dungeon boss is down the left path, but he doesn't tell anyone. Since he hasn't been leveling up much from fighting weak goblins, Jinwoo suggests that his group go down the left path. They split up, but Tishik oddly stares at Jinwoo. Kim's group member is the other coward, and Kim decides they must apologize to Jinwoo for leaving him on the first raid. They doubt he'll forgive them, but Kim believes they should try if they want to continue being hunters. Down the other path, the prisoners easily defeat another group of goblins. Tishik strangely asks if they will be able to do the same against humans, and they point out that it wouldn't make a difference. Looking into the past, Tishik was told about a man whose daughter was assaulted by 3 men. His daughter took her own life afterward, but the man was furious because the 3 men would be released from prison in a few years. To worsen the situation, they are hunters, and hunters are allowed to join raids to shorten their sentences. This is unfair because the man's daughter will never return home. The man offered Tishik 3 million yuan to eliminate the 3 prisoners. Tishik is completely mad as he now tells the prisoners what he will say to the inspectors when he leaves the dungeon without them. He will claim that the prisoners were killed by a group of 100 goblins. Kim continues down his path, but is shocked to find that it connects to Tishik's path, where he discovers Tishik massacring the prisoners. Tishik tells the prisoner that he was instructed to make them suffer, but he is interrupted by Kim. The ruthless Tishik kills the last prisoner, and decides he needs to change his plans as he heads towards Kim. Jinwoo remembers how Tishik saw him at the hospital and hopes he doesn't remember him. Suddenly, they hear screaming and rush to find the dead prisoners. Kang has also been killed, and Jinwoo is shocked to see Kim badly hurt. Jae heals him, but Song can tell this wasn't the work of a magical creature. The weapon used was too sharp, and the attacker avoided finishing Kim off several times. Kim has given up hope, but Jinwoo reminds him he has a family. Jinwoo insists he stay alive, or else he can't blame him anymore. Kim apologizes to Jinwoo with his last breath and passes away. Then, Taeshik tries to attack Jae, but Jinwoo stops him. Taeshik is impressed by Jinwoo's speed, and Song realizes Taeshik is responsible for the massacre. Song is shocked since Taeshik is part of the Hunters Association, but Taeshik just wants to share his plan. Instead of blaming the goblins, Taeshik will claim the prisoners killed the other hunters. He'll then say they tried to kill him, but failed, which is why he was the only survivor. Jinwoo tries to hold Song back, as he doesn't think he can take on Taeshik. Song decides to fight him anyway, but he knows Taeshik has a higher rank. Jae boosts his strength, and Song tries to use his sword skills against Taeshik. Taeshik saw through his plan, and now Song Kai is in danger. Just then, Jinwoo finally steps in to stop the fight. Taeshik demands to know who he is, so Jinwoo explains he's just a low-ranked hunter. Taeshik doesn't believe him, as he would need incredible speed to stop the attack he used on Song Kai. Taeshik can tell Jinwoo is hiding his power, and thinks he had a second awakening. The others are shocked, and Taeshik now remembers Jinwoo from the hospital. The Mana reader only showed a power level of 10 at the time, so Taeshik thinks the second awakening must have happened afterward. This doesn't make sense, though, as it doesn't explain why Jinwoo survived the double dungeon. Taeshik decides it doesn't matter and prepares to eliminate Jinwoo. Jinwoo wants to know what happened just now, so Taeshik explains he was carrying out justice by killing the prisoners. Jinwoo doesn't care about them but wants to know why Taeshik killed Kim and Kajun. Jinwoo notices that Taeshik could have finished things quickly, but he didn't. Instead, Taeshik seemed to have tortured and played with them. Looking back to when Taeshik spoke with the father, Taeshik explains that he has received big offers to join the biggest guilds. However, he chooses to work for peanuts in the Hunters Association. He chose this path because he finds it more enjoyable to kill people than beasts. A fight breaks out between Taeshik and Jinwoo, and the two spectators are amazed by their incredible speed. Taeshik can see they have similar builds, but he believes he has more experience fighting higher-ranked opponents. Taeshik uses this experience to control the fight, but he's shocked when Jinwoo asks him to be less bloodthirsty. It's too late, though, as Jinwoo's system notices. The system informs Jinwoo, just like last time, that there are people present who want to kill him. Jinwoo is given a quest to eliminate his opponents once again. Jinwoo is surrounded by a dark power, but Taeshik is confused since he thinks he should have the advantage. Jinwoo instantly attacks, and Taeshik is shocked when he realizes he's been poisoned. They continue fighting, but Taeshik has something special to show him too, and he disappears. He reveals it's the stealth skill, which hides sight, sound, and smell. Only a few hunters can get this skill, and no one knows he has it. Taeshik manages to injure Jinwoo, and he tells the others to wait for their turn. Taeshik is sure Jinwoo won't be able to do much with an injured leg, but he's shocked when Jinwoo instantly heals himself. Taeshik is shocked because he's never encountered a combat hunter who can also use healing magic. Jinwoo's unpredictability makes him very dangerous. Jinwoo has changed significantly, explaining that he's lost another one of his emotions, and now he doesn't even need to get angry to eliminate someone like Taeshik. Taeshik realizes Jinwoo has taken human lives before, which shocks him. He thinks Jinwoo must have made tough decisions quickly, which explains why he's changed so much. Taeshik moves into attack again, but he's surprised when Jinwoo can track him just by sensing his bloodlust. Taeshik still has a trick up his sleeve, but everything stops when Jinwoo activates his murderous intent skill. Taeshik is surrounded by darkness, and he's stunned when Jinwoo's blade pierces his chest. As Taeshik's life fades, he points out that he and Jinwoo are similar, both killing machines. He admits he's dying because he's weaker than Jinwoo. Taeshik still wants to know what Jinwoo is. He's never heard of someone with assassin skills, healing, and debuffs like Jinwoo. Jinwoo doesn't reveal anything, but Taeshik points out that Jinwoo was able to defeat him, so his low rank is irrelevant. Jinwoo decides to share something, explaining that he gets stronger with every fight. Taeshik can see that Jinwoo will keep growing stronger, but he has a warning for him. If he keeps chasing more power, that same power might take control of him. Jinwoo completes his quest and receives some rewards. Jinwoo notices that the stronger he becomes, the more he feels like something inside him is breaking. His friends thank him for saving them, but Jinwoo tells them to leave the dungeon. They're shocked to hear Jinwoo plans to clear the dungeon alone, but they realize he's strong enough to do it. Outside, Woo is surprised to hear Taeshik was secretly killing. He sees the only survivors from Taeshik's mission, and he's surprised to see Jinwoo among them. He apologizes for what happened and wants to know who defeated Tishik. Jinwoo realizes he can't keep his secret anymore, which means he'll have to break his deal with Yu. Just before he confesses, Song lies and says he defeated Tishik. Song is only a C rank, so he explains he only won because of a healer's help. Wu is skeptical, as Tishik was a top B rank hunter, but he accepts Song's answer. Then Jinwoo reminds himself not to get overconfident. He couldn't tell before, but Wu isn't a rank hunter. He senses Wu's immense power now and knows he wouldn't stand a chance against him in a fight at his current strength. Song understands Jinwoo has a good reason for keeping a secret, so he tells Jinwoo it's payback for what happened in the double dungeon. That night, everything is settled, and Jahai wonders if Jinwoo remembers the stone she gave him. Strolling along the path, Jinwoo and Jahai chatted about Jinwoo's amazing changes. While Jinwoo had grown a lot, Jahai felt she stayed the same, knowing her timid nature didn't fit the bold life of a hunter. Despite this, she chose easier missions, leading her to meet Jinwoo. In their meetings, Jahai often helped Jinwoo when he got hurt. Even with his accidents, Jinwoo's determined eyes stuck with Jahai. Returning Jinwoo's crystal, Jahai revealed her plan to retire and go back home. They promised to meet again if destiny allowed. Looking back, doubts surrounded Jinwoo's skills, especially from a guy named Wu. Wu couldn't believe Jinwoo, an E-rank hunter, could beat the tough B-rank Kong. Although Jinwoo hadn't shown any special powers, Wu warned him anyway. Trouble brewed as news came of Dongsu, a hunter seeking revenge for his fallen brother. Dongsu targeted Jinwoo and Yu as the only survivors of his brother's incident. With Dongsu's S-rank status, Jinwoo and Yu faced real danger. Dongsu might not care about the truth and could be angry just because Jinwoo survived while his brother didn't. Sadly, the law can't help much against powerful S-rank hunters who can bring either good or bad things. One of these dangerous hunters is after Jinwoo, so Wu suggests he should leave the country with his family. But Jinwoo decides he needs to become stronger to survive. When Jinwoo meets Yu, he's confused by their strike team. Jinwoo looks for skilled hunters struggling to make a living. He hires a high schooler who gets discouraged when Jinwoo realizes she's inexperienced. But Jinwoo tells them to wait outside while he and Yu handle everything. They'll each get paid well for doing nothing, but they must keep it secret or pay back 10 times the money. Jinwoo got a special stealth rune after beating Kong, and he learns the stealth skill with it. Yu is all geared up in expensive armor, which surprises Jinwoo. Jinwoo thinks it's crazy to wear such costly armor, and insists Yu takes it off. He lets Yu keep the helmet though, and they both go through the portal. Other hunters think they're crazy for going into a C-rank dungeon alone, but Jinwoo and Yu don't mind since they've already signed the contract. Jinwoo's sister wonders where her friend, Song is, who turns out to be the high schooler on Jinwoo's team. The hunters talk about how a full team would take 2 hours for the raid, so when they see Yu coming out of the portal, they assume they've given up. They're shocked when they realize the gate is closing behind them, meaning they've cleared the dungeon. Jinwoo urges them to hurry as he wants to go to another portal. Their goal is to complete 3 raids in one day, which surprises the other hunters because they didn't even expect to finish one. In another raid, Jinwoo defeats goblins while Yu mines. Jinwoo levels up after defeating the goblins. The next raid is also successful, and Jinwoo levels up even more. Days go by, and they keep clearing dungeons alone. They face stronger monsters, but Yu notices Jinwoo is getting stronger too. Jinwoo's stealth skill is proving really handy, and his dash skill gets stronger too. He gains a couple more skills and finds them powerful when he uses them against a wolf. But he realizes he doesn't have enough mana to use them for long, so he takes a potion to fix this. He decides he'll focus on improving his intellect ability from now on. He decides not to go back to the demon castle yet because he thinks he's only somewhere between a B rank and an A rank hunter. Then the system tells him he's reached the level for a job change quest. Meanwhile, another guild's manager named On hears about a strike team led by the rich kid Yu, offering double the usual rate for C-rank gates. On remembers Jinwoo from the double dungeon incident, and feels something interesting is happening. Jinwoo and Yu come out of another portal victorious. Jinwoo wonders if Songyi has an eye problem, but she says it's nothing. Meanwhile, On's assistant is shocked when On thinks Jinwoo has reawakened. Jinwoo survived 3 big disasters with high casualties each time, which suggests reawakening. On decides to scout Jinwoo. When On arrives at Jinwoo's portal, he's surprised to see what looks like a picnic. Songyi tells him the area is off limits and points out she's a hunter. She admits being part of the strike team, and On is shocked to learn Jinwoo left the group to enter the dungeon alone. On believes Jinwoo could be a great discovery, but surprisingly Jinwoo leaves. They come out of the gate, and Jinwoo tells Yu he's busy the next day, so they postpone some raids. Troy wakes up from a nightmare and checks some paperwork, realizing it's almost time for the reconnaissance mission on Jeju Island. Jinwoo finishes his day of raiding and introduces himself as the manager of the White Tigers Guild, one of the best in the country, and offers Jinwoo double what Eugene Construction is paying him to join their guild, and is confident in E-rank like Jinwoo couldn't refuse. But Jinwoo asks about the value of the White Tiger Guild headquarters. It's worth 50 billion, but Jinwoo reveals the construction company is giving him a 30 billion building. Jinwoo shows proof, but admits he can't offer their 50 billion building. Jinwoo loses interest, but asks how and heard about him. Jinwoo scares him by ensuring he wasn't snooping around and disappears, and realizes Jinwoo used stealth to cut him and is shocked, realizing Jinwoo is a reawakened with stealth ability. Jinwoo warns On not to turn around, asking why he's investigating the gate buyers. On explains it's just him and a subordinate who know about Jinwoo. Jinwoo warns if others start knowing, they'll be his first suspects. On promises to keep it a secret, so Jinwoo reveals himself again. Jinwoo needs to keep buying gates, which causes problems for the guild's recruit training. He agrees to sell them 3 gates, shocking On when he sets the price at 300 million yuan each. On pleads to lower it to 200 million, and Jinwoo agrees. They make the deal for 3 gates, but Jinwoo still has something for On. He gives On a healing potion for the cut on his face, showing he trusts him but warns him to stay silent. On's assistant asks how it went, and On thinks Jinwoo might be a bigger deal than he thought. The next day, Yu confirms receiving 600 million yuan. He's amazed Jinwoo got so much for the gates they were going to cancel. Yu wants to know more, but Jinwoo says it's a trade secret. At the White Tiger Guild, and realizes Jinwoo tricked him as several gates are selling for less than 70 million yuan. Jinwoo sends a message, saying they're even now for spying on him. On realizes Jinwoo is not someone to mess with, but is glad to have his contact information. Meanwhile, Jinwoo goes on a road trip to find out about the job change quest. Jinwoo ventures into a dense forest, far removed from civilization, his mind clouded with uncertainty about the job change quest ahead. Despite encountering dungeons accessible only with keys and being thrust into immediate penalty and emergency quests, this job quest remains optional, offering him time to deliberate. Jinwoo perceives it as a crucial opportunity to enhance his strength by acquiring skills tailored to his profession. Opting to accept the quest, Jinwoo witnesses a gate materialize before him. As he steps through, he belatedly remembers his daily quest but resolves to tackle it later, deeming this moment the true commencement of the game. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Yu enjoys a meal with his father, joined by his brother. Within the dungeon, Jinwoo realizes he cannot rely on potions or full recovery and must proceed with caution as exit becomes impossible until the quest concludes. Suddenly, a sound draws near, prompting Jinwoo to ready himself. To his surprise, an armored beast emerges, prompting Jinwoo to attack swiftly. Yet, his efforts prove futile against the formidable creature, catching him off guard with its sheer power. Jinwoo persists in his assault, landing blow after blow, yet the monster remains unscathed. Undeterred, he evades the creature's retaliatory strikes, asserting his experience in battling even more formidable foes with tougher defenses. Determined, Jinwoo resorts to using his bare hands, tearing through the beast's armor with sheer force. Despite his victory, he can't help but lament the squandered opportunity of his fatal strike skill. However, Jinwoo's solitude is short-lived as he senses the presence of company. Meanwhile, back in the world of Yu, his father inquires about Jungsun's progress in forming the guild, expressing concern over the declining offers to S-rank hunters. Jungsun reassures him, revealing negotiations with international hunters. Yu realizes the looming competition and is taken aback when Jinsung hints at knowledge of his clandestine endeavors. While Yu remains silent, he suspects Jinsung underestimates his partner's strength. In the depths of the dungeon, Jinwoo continues his onslaught, dismantling the horde of monsters. However, his respite is brief as he detects a stealthy adversary and confronts a mage wielding light magic. Puzzled by the familiar yet peculiar encounters, Jinwoo strategizes, analyzing each opponent's weaknesses and formulating a plan of attack. Fatigue sets in, prompting Jinwoo to hasten the conclusion of the battle. Elsewhere, Choi convenes with fellow hunters, readying for their journey to Jeju Island. In the dungeon's depths, Jinwoo emerges victorious over the monsters, rewarded with a chest plate, yet he realizes he hasn't delved much into utilizing gear. Upon donning the chest plate, Jinwoo is relieved to find it grants invisibility without hampering his mobility. His level has ascended, and he possesses a bounty of golden items. Reinvigorated, he presses on through the dungeon. As Jinwoo unlocks a colossal door, a chilling gust rushes forth, signaling an ominous chamber beyond. Inside, a throne room awaits, stirring a sense of foreboding within him. The eerie ambience triggers a distant memory, akin to the intensity of the double dungeon ordeal. Jinwoo's disbelief mounts as he senses an unparalleled presence emanating from a solitary figure, the Knight Commander, Igris. His name blazes in red, marking him as a foe unlike any other Jinwoo has encountered. Swift and relentless, Igris unleashes a flurry of attacks, effortlessly cleaving through pillars with astonishing speed, leaving Jinwoo stunned. Swift and relentless, the monster swiftly overwhelms Jinwoo with its next strike, leaving him no chance to retaliate. Helpless against the ferocious assault, Jinwoo finds himself tossed around like a ragdoll, astounded by the sheer might of his adversary. Despite Jinwoo's lightning-fast reflexes and a flurry of strikes, his blade proves futile against the knight's impenetrable armor. Barely managing to parry an incoming blow, Jinwoo is forcefully hurled backward, realizing that, while evenly matched in speed, Igris far surpasses him in strength. Recognizing the immense threat posed by Igris, Jinwoo questions his odds of emerging victorious. Doubt gnaws at him as he ponders his next move, doubting his ability to penetrate Igris's formidable armor without a suitable weapon. Resolute, Jinwoo sheathes his dagger, prompting a surprising response from the knight, who likewise discards his weapons. Meanwhile, Troy expresses gratitude to the chairman for approving the operation, fully aware of the inherent risks. Intent on gauging the enemy's response, Troy emphasizes the expedition's purpose as merely an assessment of threat level. Back in the dungeon, Igris wastes no time in delivering a devastating blow to Jinwoo, effortlessly tossing him aside like a plaything before unleashing a relentless barrage of punches. Thrown forcefully through a wall, Jinwoo is left in awe of his formidable opponent. Despite successfully blocking the punches, he feels as if he's lost a significant amount of health points. Grateful for the armor he equipped, Jinwoo acknowledges that without it, he might not have survived the onslaught. Recognizing that he can't match his opponent's strength, Jinwoo opts to enhance his speed instead. Darting around his adversary, he finally manages to gain some ground, launching a series of attacks. However, it becomes increasingly evident that catching his opponent will prove challenging. Jinwoo finds himself tossed around mercilessly, noticing a boost in the knight's defensive capability. Though enduring a relentless assault, Jinwoo persists in fighting back. His perseverance pays off when he executes a spectacular move, landing a decisive kick on Igris's head. However, realizing the potential consequences of his action, Jinwoo braces himself as the knight retaliates with renewed ferocity. Back home, Gina leaves dinner for Jinwoo before delving into her studies. Meanwhile, glimpses of Jinwoo's mother in the hospital offer a poignant reminder of his familial concerns. In dire straits, Jinwoo finds himself at the mercy of the knight, who prepares to deliver a fatal blow. Yet, in a shocking turn of events, Jinwoo manages to halt the impending strike with a single hand. With unwavering determination, Jinwoo refuses to concede defeat and pushes back against Idris. Summoning his blade, he finds a gap in the knight's helmet and drives the weapon through, utilizing all his strength to force Idris against a wall. When the knight attempts to wield Jinwoo's blade against him, Jinwoo clarifies that the dagger always returns to his possession, rendering it useless in the enemy's hands. Pressing on, Jinwoo thrusts his blade deeper into the knight's skull, realizing he must penetrate further for a decisive blow. Employing every ounce of power he possesses, Jinwoo unleashes a series of fatal strikes, culminating in the most potent attack he's ever delivered. As the knight goes limp, Jinwoo withdraws his blade, greeted by a victory notification. Reflecting on the vast disparity between them, Jinwoo humbly acknowledges that his triumph may have been mere luck, recognizing the perilous margin for error. Yet, he receives 4 rewards, including 1.5 million gold and the coveted S-Rank helmet worn by Idris. Unprecedented in quality, the helmet enhances his stats and mitigates damage by 15%. Additionally, Jinwoo gains a runestone for the ruler's hand skill and an instant teleportation stone, prompting him to question why he's receiving it now. Suspicion arises as multiple portals suddenly materialize, casting doubt on whether the job change quest has truly concluded. Jinwoo braces himself for what lies ahead as uncertainty looms. A notification suddenly appears, signaling the commencement of the job change quest. Jinwoo's task is simple: survive for as long as possible to accrue advancement points, a necessity for climbing to a higher class. Although the concept of advancement points remains mysterious to Jinwoo, he understands the urgency of the situation. With a timer ticking down, Jinwoo braces himself for an onslaught of foes, knowing he must endure endless waves. Thankfully, the adversaries seem less formidable than Igris, offering Jinwoo a fighting chance. Despite their numbers, Jinwoo maintains his composure, charging into battle with unwavering courage. Meanwhile, other hunters depart for Jeju Island, leaving Jinwoo to face the challenge alone. As time passes, Jinwoo remains entrenched in combat, grappling with wave after wave of enemies. Aware that endurance is key, Jinwoo employs stealth tactics and conserves his mana to prolong his survival. However, his strategy is thwarted when a cunning mage exposes his stealth, leaving Jinwoo vulnerable. Forced back into direct confrontation, Jinwoo struggles against increasingly overwhelming odds. Despite his valiant efforts, mere minutes elapse before he realizes the futility of his situation. Reluctantly, Jinwoo considers retreat, but before he can act, a sudden attack disrupts his plans, sending him spiraling into a desperate struggle for survival against the encroaching horde. This brings an end to our episode 11. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe our channel, Annie Explainer.